Welcome to Alive in Writing, a podcast on troubleshooting life as a writer.
I'm Chautona Having.
I'm April Heyman.
And I'm C.R. Rowanson. We're here.
We're live.
And we're writing.
We're all writers, so saying that we love writing is kind of like saying a wino likes alcohol. But today we kind of want to explore why we love writing so much. And today, Chautona is in the hot seat.
Okay, I'm out of here.
So, no.
Oh, that's right. You blocked my exit.
Doors are locked.
Yes,
Severed heads on the other side.
Questions will be answered.
Yes, sir.
So, Chautona, what do you love most about writing? What are your favorite things about writing?
Top of the list, it's an escape from reality.
No, I get that.
I get to create whatever. If you don't like it, my uncle wrote a song about a daydreamer. And it's like, the world doesn't like dreamers. They think they're stupid or, and whatever. But he's like, if he makes a mistake and he breaks his own heart, he just changes his dream and he goes on, and it's a great line. But it's the same with like story writing. It's like, if I don't like it,
There's a bunch of easy jokes here that I'm just going to let go.
Oh, man. You missed Park's jokes. Okay, now I'm sad. Oh.
So escape from reality because it's less fun, or why do you?
Well, it's just because, okay, look, I am a homeschool mom. I live in the desert. I don't do well in the sun. I really don't do well in the sun.
Good place to be then.
Yeah, I know, right? And for almost 30 years, not including childhood. And so my life, if I didn't have writing, would either be reading about other escapes. Okay, I call my writing just the right escape, And so, or...
Suddenly makes sense now.
Right?
It does.
Or I can just have my photosynthesis and prepositions and think, oh, goodness. Yeah, I need the escape. Yeah, let's just go with that.
Okay.
What do you think, April? Do I escape reality?
I think you escape reality every day.
But I write every day. See?
That's the point.
So if Chautona's therapist is listening, we may have just wasted many valuable hours of sessions, but we're just going to go right ahead. So what else do you like about writing?
I admit that there's a certain catharsis in writing. It's a way, you can't be mean to people in person. It's mean, right?
No, you can.
Oh, okay.
You absolutely can.
Well, all right. I will not allow myself to deliberately be mean to people in real life.
Okay.
I may want to. Okay. I will be completely transparent and admit that there are times I really want to. But in fiction, I can do that. I can be as cruel and horrible as I want to. And I am. It's like, my first book, that's what I did, is I took a simple question and I kept twisting it. Well, let's give 8 kids to a young girl who's never had children, who has no help, who knows nothing about kids. She gets a mother-in-law anyway. Come on, how twisted can you be, right? She gets the mother-in-law from the nether regions, which I didn't have. I have an amazing mother-in-law, but most stereotypical mother-in-laws are horrible, and so I gave her one that makes stereotypical ones look really sweet, because I have fun with that. So yeah, there's a certain, unleashing of your inner evil in...
I can completely understand that.
Yeah, I figured Clark would get this.
Yeah.
April, I don't think, has an inner evil, but...
No, I do. I'm totally evil.
He's such a liar. You may not be evil, but you are totally a liar. Except that, if you think about it, by the strictest definition, fiction is just a book of lies.
Yeah, that's true.
Someone, I'm not kidding you. Angela, the Wonder Server, was talking to someone about the fact that she knows this writer who writes novels in what genre, and she said Christian fiction, and he's like, so is that where you make up lies about God?
Nice. Oh yeah, that's exactly what that
totally
genre
what
is.
Christian fiction is.
Oh, that's...
I know, right?
That's a tough one to answer.
I am telling you. I got all kinds of ideas from it.
I feel like that's a completely different genre than you could...
But it's awesome.
Theological fantasy, maybe?
Well, and depending on your belief system, all theology is a fantasy.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say some people practice that in their own homes without writing a word.
Exactly. So, and I am a Christian. And so, why else would I write Christian fiction, right? I'm not Nancy Moser, but...
Just for laughs.
I know, right? I guess. But as Christians, we're not allowed to hate people. There are very few things that we're actually forbidden to do, and that is actually one of them. We are not allowed to hate people. But in fiction, they're not real. And so I get to hate, and it's not a sin, and I don't like it.
That's really interesting, because I feel pretty free to hate pretty much anybody I want. I mean, even if it's just the principle of the matter,
Which means that if my goal in life was to convert you, I would just commit suicide right now.
Oh. Ouch. Well, I compliment, maybe?
Yeah,
I don't
right?
know.
No, I'm thinking that just... it was meant as one.
We're in a good place today, you can
I'm
tell.
telling you, man, and there goes my audience. They will never read another word from me again.
Well, they're certainly not going to read any of my words.
Well, actually, I know some that will, actually. See? But it's cool. Yeah. April, save me.
So thinking about not just writing, but the things that touch onto writing, like readers, what are some of your favorite reader interactions that you've had?
Oh, that's a good one. That's fine. Have I already told my Charlotte story? My Charlotte, North Carolina airport story?
Maybe.
It was my first.
Tell it again.
Yeah. If you've heard it already, you can just, get a Coke real quick. But, no, Charlotte, North Carolina airport. If you've never been there, it's really cool. They actually have like white rocking chairs, so it looks like it's a, southern porch. It's really cool in there.
That's
it's beautiful.
Weird.
Yeah, it's beautiful. But I'm sitting there, and my habit in an airport, I check my bags. I only have a single carry-on, and in that carry-on is always my laptop. So I'm sitting there writing, and I wait until that final call where it's like, if you don't get on this plane in the next 2 minutes, you're not going to make your flight. Then I get on, because I don't have any luggage to put away or any of that stuff. I just get on, sit down, and I'm done. And I get to be on the plane as little as possible. Because I love flying, but I don't like sitting in an airplane seat and not going anywhere. That is not interesting to me. And so I'm sitting there typing away, and this woman across from me, she's staring at me. She's just staring. And it's creepy. I mean, I'm just going to say it was creepy. And I got to the point where I was getting uncomfortable enough that when I looked up again and she's looking, I was like, you know what? I'm done. So I pack my stuff up and I'm going to get on slightly early, and then I look at her once more as I'm standing, and she's got this Kindle that she's been reading, and she turns it around, and there's the cover of my book. And I was like, wow. And she's like, yeah, look, she didn't say anything, but she's pointing at it and everything. And it was, oh my goodness, it's that I've arrived moment, And so, yeah, that was a cool one. But I get to meet them when I go on my trips. Right. I'll say, I'm traveling this route. If you are within half an hour of where I am, I will jog over to meet you. And they take me up on it. It's really cool because you get to meet some really neat people. I actually got to give a gal my recipe for castor oil birth induction, and it worked. She had the baby that night. So, it was...
Wow, that was way more information than I needed.
You never know when you need to know this. So
probably way more information than Clark ever needed, too.
So if you need to know...
I really don't know when I will need to know this.
Just send me an email. It works. It works every time.
Take that, biology.
Well, it is part of botany. Your wife should know all about the properties of castor oil.
Oh, yeah, I was talking specifically about me. I don't think I will need birth induction.
And you won't, but you never know when you might have a best friend whose wife is driving him insane. She needs that baby to be born yesterday, and then you can call me.
Okay, noted.
Oh, my.
And it won't work for her because Murphy is alive and well.
So that means that you've done a lot of research, is my guess.
That means that I've had a lot of kids. But yes, I do a lot of research.
So one question I did have for you, Chautona. Yeah, you're trying to do this too smooth. That's not our style.
Forget the smooth. April's not smooth. Actually, usually you are though.
More jokes.
We failed it. We just chopped your smooth.
You did.
Beware the smooth.
It's ruined.
Smooth.
Oh, wait.
Groove. Oh boy. So one question that I really have for you, Chautona, is what was it that made you really decide to dig in and become a writer? So there's that point where you start writing.
Yeah.
And then there's that point where you realize how much work it's going to be and that you were ready to dig your heels into the ground and weather that storm because you're a writer.
Yeah. Actually, I got that moment the moment I decided to write. I didn't actually start writing a lot until 20 years later. But I remember the defining moment. It was very vivid for me. I can still smell the salt in the air of Ventura with the Santa Anas blowing into my window. The moment I read, it was A Tree Grows in Brooklyn. I was 12. Why my mother gave that book to a 12-year-old, I don't know, but she did. It's a fabulous book, but it's really not appropriate for 12 in my not so humble opinion. But in this book, there's a story, and the main character, Francie, tells a lie. She creates this elaborate story around it, and I won't go into all of it, but she tells it, and the teacher did something brilliant, and I will never forget it. She said, Francie, a lot of people would think these stories that you're making up all the time were terrible lies because they're not as people see the truth. In the future, when something comes up, you tell exactly how it happened, but write down for yourself the way you think it should have happened. Tell the truth, write the story. That did it for me. I hated the truth as a kid because it was never like I thought it should be, but I hated lies more because... Let's face it, lies are awful. This was a way to combine it into a perfectly socially acceptable form of lying. So basically, I'm a big fat liar in fiction.
And you're getting paid for it.
Yay! No. Well, it's a socially, like Dr. Rowe says, or Toro, or how you pronounce it, he says that writing is a socially acceptable form of schizophrenia. And he's right.
And possibly sociopathy, but that's all right.
So, it's mental health on the half shell or something. I don't know.
Okay. Now, April, you had another question, I think, that we ruined the segue for.
Yeah, so you like researching, right? So I'm not going to even try to be smooth this time. Tell me about research.
I love research.
Oh, okay.
I really do.
Wow.
Shocker. I don't love it as much as April does, but we'll talk about that in her segment. But I love research. You wouldn't believe the funny little things that you learn when you didn't mean to, even. You're looking at one thing and it makes you go, oh, I didn't realize I have to know this to make this work. So you go look at that thing and some little line in there, it may not even have anything to do with it, but for some reason that pushed and put it in there and you get a whole new book idea out of it. I mean, that's my biggest problem is I have way too many ideas, but it's a whole lot of fun. But research, you learn how much we think we know about the past, like, for example, that isn't. It's not accurate. There's a lot that we think we know that is totally inaccurate.
Like what? Can you give a good example?
I learned it in writing. I call it Alardnish. It's spelled like Alarednik.
Okay.
But I call it Alardnish because if the Brits can do Beauchamp for Beecham and take St. John and call it St. John, I can have Alardnish. So... just saying. They get to do it. Why can't I, right? But it was Regency England, Cinderella backwards. And I was writing what I understood to be so, and a lot of it was wrong. Thankfully, I've got my fabulous editor who is a Regency expert. Yes. And I kept trying to use chaperones where they wouldn't. They didn't have to be chaperoned like you had to be in Victorian times. But it's a natural segue that if they required it in Victorian, people assume they needed it before that, and they didn't. They were not nearly as rigid in Regency as they were in Victorian. It's not even close.
Really?
Yeah, not even close. So you expect that a young woman wouldn't be allowed to go, for example, riding in a buggy with a guy? Yeah, they could in Regency. It was like Sense and Sensibility, the adaptation. You see Marianne, and Eleanor, they're waiting, and Willoughby rides up and she jumps in. And Eleanor has no problem with her sister going off alone with this man. That's not the problem. The problem is their behavior while they're alone caused because they were they were racing through town and being totally rude. And that's where the sister came in and said this was wrong.
Huh.
And my brain would have said the sister would have had to go with them. But she didn't. Austen never made that distinction that you had to go. And so it was, you have all these things. And when you go to the research, a lot of it's wrong. A lot of it, if you compare with what they actually did in fiction from the time compared to with what we assume they did, it's wrong. They make these assumptions. And so, that's the cool, I love history. And so it's the coolest thing about research is finding out where you were wrong.
So do you have resources that you use? Oh
yeah, there's one of the best ones is what Jane Austen read and Charles Dickens ate. That's a really cool book.
Okay.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's a really cool book. It's just, you learn all the rules of primogeniture. I don't know if primogeniture, I don't think I pronounced that right, but, the birthing laws and the where you can pass, what you can pass down to whom and how, those are in there, literally what they did and didn't eat. Like they talk about, they got it wrong in Lost in Austen. They're talking about chocolate for breakfast. Well, they actually have chocolate bars on their plates for breakfast.
Mm-hmm.
They wouldn't have eaten chocolate bars, would
No,
they?
chocolate for breakfast was hot chocolate at breakfast. They just called it chocolate. They didn't call it hot chocolate because they all knew what it meant.
Huh. Okay.
And so in the Lost in Austen, she's like, why are you having these chocolate bars? Well, they weren't. They wouldn't have. They got it wrong. And so, but that book will talk about that kind of stuff. And there's one, Georgette Heyer, there's one about the Regency in Georgette Heyer's book because she actually, her books aren't really my cup of tea, but her facts are true. And so that's a really good one.
So do you have, because I know you write a lot of historical fiction, so...
Yeah, I write some. I don't write a lot, but I write some, definitely.
So do you have ethics about writing historical characters?
Yeah, they have to stick to...
The time period?
The time period. Because we tend to...
The values of the time period?
Yeah, we tend to interject our own... and you see it in books all the time where all of a sudden... all the Victorian and all the Regency and all the medieval, they're very spunky, independent, what.
Oh, yeah.
And
yeah.
I'm sorry, there weren't that many. It's not that they didn't exist, but when all the fiction shows a modern sensibility to a historical era, I have a real problem with it. The word choicing. Do you know how long it takes me to find the right word? Like in Madeline, I'll use a word and I'm like, I wonder if that was in use then.
I actually know how long it takes you.
It's, yeah, you've been there.
I've been there.
Oh my goodness, it's awful. But I'm not going to use a word. And sometimes you can use part of a phrase, but not the whole phrase. Peachy keen. You could use keen in 1901. You can't use peachy keen because peachy keen didn't come until 1950. And you've got to look at all that stuff because otherwise you get it wrong.
I'm so glad I make all my stuff up.
All the more reason for fantasy. Fantasy is great.
So we're going to wrap up. I want you to talk. We're going to actually wrap up with the Spotlight, which is...
Oh, Spotlight. Stephen James's Troubleshooting Your Novel. It's one that I've been really encouraging people to get. This book is amazing. It really is very in depth, but it's so easy to read. It's so easy to take in. It's so easy to apply. He made it almost bite-sized to really troubleshoot.
Yeah.
You've read part of it, right?
I'm partway through it now, and I hardly made it a chapter where I didn't sit it down. I didn't set it aside and reevaluate something that I was doing in one of my stories. So yeah, it generated a lot of thoughts and just new ideas that I hadn't been aware of.
Yeah, it's amazing, but it's not heavy.
It's not overbearing. It's not a textbook.
No, it's not. It's really, I was really impressed with how great it is. So that's my thing. You want Troubleshooting Your Novel.
Awesome. So go to Chautona's website. Chautona's website. At Chautona.com. And she has a free short story collection that you can grab when you sign up for her newsletter. So that's all the time we've got
So
today.
go there and read her stuff.
Yay!
Yeah.
So this has been Alive in Writing. Sometimes that's all you've got, but it's all you really need. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. Take care. Bye.
Bye.